Good evening. Okay, thank you. We'll call the meeting to order, and I'm going to read, we're going to do the roll call, and then we'll do the advertisements.
Mrs. Sherfane.
Here.
Mrs. Gallagher. Here. Mr. Greenbaum.
Here.
Mr. Mayor.
Here.
Dr. Rude.
Here.
Mrs. Niaz.
Here.
Mrs. Tong. Mrs. Winters.
Here.
Ms. Stern.
Here.
Public notice of this
Meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, taken by the Board Secretary on July 16th in the following manner. Posted notice on the school bulletin board at the administration building, transmitted to the Courier Post, Philadelphia Inquirer, and the clerk of Cherry Hill Township. And I'm going to ask everybody to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so it looks like we have a wire that wants to bother us and haunt us. Hopefully that will not continue. Thank you, Mr. Plavinsky, for trying to help us with that. Dr. Morton, it looks like we do not have any board recognition tonight. We do not have any presentations, and we do not have administrative reports. Is that correct? Okay, great. So we move to correspondence. Are there any board members who would like to share correspondence? Mr. Greenbaum.
Thank you. I attended last night's town council meeting where Mayor Fleischer and council members honored Chelsea Monahan for her performance on the U.S. women's ball hockey team that won the gold medal at the 2024 ISBHF Women's World Championship. Ms. Monahan is a teacher at Horace Mann, and it was a pleasure to join Mr. Cohen, Dr. Cafagna, and other colleagues, friends, and family to congratulate her.
Thank you for attending. That's fantastic. It's to recognize our staff. Other board members have any correspondence, any activities? It's a quiet few weeks. Okay. All right, we will move on to our student rep reports. We will start with Rebecca. Well, I'm a little confused. I want to make sure we want to start with East or West this time. I apologize. It looks like we have East listed first, so we'll start with Solemn, but I hope we're in the right order from last. I don't know who went first last time. You know, do you remember? Does anyone remember? Okay. All right. We're just going to go with East and then we'll switch it for next time. All right. Thanks. Oh, I'm being okay. To be fair, it looks like we might have had East go first time. So we'll have West start. So we have Jenna in the audience and Rebecca at the table with us. So Rebecca, if you'd take it away, please.
Okay. I don't have much to report on, obviously, because it's summer, but construction is going on in the building with new air conditioning units in D Wing and B Wing. Sports teams are currently conducting summer workouts, and our wrestling camp got to go to Ohio, which was awesome. Several teams are participating in summer leagues, and we also wish the West students participating in Cherry Bowl at the Earlton Swim Club this upcoming Saturday good luck. The custodial crew is coming to prepare the school for the new arrival of students in September, and counselors have also been meeting with newly registered students to welcome them to High School West and to get them scheduled for classes.
Great. Thank you. Be plenty more in the fall, I'm sure. Okay. And I'm going to go to Solomon and Erilyn are here tonight from East. So Solomon, if you'll let us know what's going on in East.
Okay, so although it's the summer, there's still things going on within the East community. In regards to academics, East guidance counselors held a Common App / Naviance workshop on Thursday, July 11. There were 2 sessions to help aid rising seniors and their parents with the college application process. The next Common App / Naviance workshops will be held at East on Monday, August 12th. Summer enrichment programs have also been going on going on at East this month for students entering 6th grade up to current 10th graders. Students were offered a variety of courses to enrich their learning, taught by Cherry Hill teachers, and the programs took place on July 15 to 18 and July 22 to 25th. Next month, Cherry Hill teachers will also be teaching SAT/PSAT and college essay workshops at East.
So as for some of our activities, Rising East seniors had the opportunity to take their senior portraits from Monday, July 8th until Thursday, July 11th at East. The next opportunity for seniors to take their portraits will be from August 12th to August 15th at East. Looking forward to freshmen and the new students that we will have, and that we are hoping that they will have the opportunity to participate in the 30-minute student-led tours of East from 6 to 8 p.m. on August 7th, 14th, and 21st. Ninth grade orientation is in about a month on August 27th.
In regards to athletics, throughout July, the floor of the East Gym was majorly renovated and looks great for athletes and students to enjoy the upcoming school year. Bond construction is also allowed for Cherry Hill East Dance Gym renovations. And the track and turf also was closed for some repairs and maintenance. We hope to continue to see improvements of some of the more aging parts of the East buildings. East sports teams have also continued to practice throughout the summer, including the football, volleyball, wrestling, soccer, and field hockey teams. The competitive seasons for many fall sports will be starting very soon in August. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So as a parent, I got to attend the Common App workshop, and I want to highly recommend it for parents and students. And if your students tell you that parents don't attend, that's just not true. I'm a witness to that. And trust me, it's a lot to do, but it also gets for kids who are interested in filling out the Common App with the intention of applying to colleges. It's incredibly helpful to have all those questions answered and get a lot of it done. It just takes a lot of the stress off, honestly, of the students and the parents, if the parents are involved. So highly encourage anybody who's listening, and share this out, please. Those are really, really valuable resources that are offered if you can make the time. And I know there was a daytime and an evening offering previously. So, lots of help for our students and families who want that help. So, all right. Then we move on to our first public comment. There will be 2 public comment opportunities this evening. The first public comment session is for board action items only, items 13, 14, 15, and 17. And there will be another public comment section at the end of our meeting, which will be for any item on school related at that time. If you're a student in the district, you may comment during the first public comment period on any topic. Doesn't have to be agenda item. But we would ask that in order for us to know that you are a student, if you're online, to please put an S after your name so that we know you are a student and you'd like to speak. Public comment is the opportunity for members of our community to comment on matters relevant to the operations of Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on relevant matters. Under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums, statements which demean individual community members or groups or which are irrelevant to the operations of the school district or are repetitive will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. So if you'd like to speak now, please approach the podium. We will alternate between the podium in the room and online. And if you do want to speak, please be sure, if you are an adult, to please state your name, your municipality, and the agenda item you're speaking on. And if you're a student, please be sure to state your name and your municipality. I don't see anybody at the podium, so I'm going to go directly to the line. And the number ends in 788. If you could please state your full name, your municipality, and the action item you're speaking on, 13, 14, 15, or 17.
Okay, my name is Jeff Potterwitz, and I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It'll be a couple of these. One is 14.1, transfer of current year surplus to capital reserves, $12 million transfer. We discussed it at the last meeting, public comment too. Bottom line is cut that amount from 12 million to 8 million to 6 million. You don't know if you're going to need it next year, what's going to happen. what's going to happen the following year. So just cut that amount. Just don't leave it to capital reserve. 14.7, a resolution approving the board and Right at School LLC to provide preschool before and after school care. Please vote no for this. It was published in May 31st, 2024. They received approvals June 20th. That's less than a month later. This was a proposal that was accepted. You know something, we don't know what the cost will be. That's not listed. I know eventually it will be put in a newspaper. You can do this, but for transparency, it would be nice to know exactly what the relationship will be. It's a 2-year relationship. Where are they going to be? Where are they? You know, this is just basically a lack of transparency. Yeah, you could do it this way, but what are the numbers? How much money are they getting per year? This is 2 years. What is going on here? What classrooms in the schools it's going to be in our schools will this be done? How will it affect elementary schools where I guess they'll be housed? What rooms will they be in? Do you need any dedicated rooms? How many people are coming? What are the costs? There are so many questions, none of which will be answered here. It would be nice if you gave us the answers that it was discussed in the public. What will the charges be to the parents? Will it be free to the parents? We don't know anything, and that's pretty typical. 17.1, approval of goals. Look at goal number 2, 9. Ensure smooth and effective transition for students receiving special education. Yeah. Well, what about the movement of those students to Cherry Hill East that are coming from what was termed our alternative high school or a third high school? I don't think that's smooth. You broke that goal already, so you might as well take it out. That's not a smooth transition. When did they find out about it? A few months ago. They're going to be moved into an overcrowded classroom. That's your definition of smooth? That's going to be a smooth transition? Will you be held to this goal? So people should read all these goals. This goal at least, goal 2, number 9, take off. You've already missed the boat on that. So please look at those and please provide some of that information about the preschool expansion, preschool care and daycare. What exactly is that going to be?
Thank you, Dr. Potowitz. And we go back
Okay.
to the room. If there's anybody who'd like to speak in the room, please approach the podium. I don't see anybody at the podium. We go back online. And it is Laura Ann's iPad. If you could please state your full name, municipality, and the action item agenda you're speaking on.
It's Ann Einhorn. I'm speaking first on 14.10. What is the exact dollar amount of the transfer to capital reserve? And 14.7. So I'm assuming that by reading this, that this contract is for preschool / SAC availability. So am I to make the assumption that as a result of this, that Lewis Building will only be for pre-K? Or are you also expanding it to reduce the overcrowding in other community schools? Because the way I'm reading it is that this contract is for pre-K only students at the Lewis Building. So I'd like some clarification on that proposal. It makes me believe that Lewis Building is really designated only for pre-K. Because if it's not, then the availability of a before and an after school program should be available to all students as an elementary school, if that's what you're doing with the Lewis Building. I would like some clarity. Thank you.
Okay, just for clarification, because board members are looking at me, there's no mention of Lewis Building in that item. We move on. Go back to the room. If anyone else would like to speak, if you please approach the podium. Okay, please state your full name, municipality, and the action item you're speaking on, items 13, 14, 15, or 17.
Wait, 17 actually has something for a change?
Yes. Goals.
Dr. Yoni Yaris, Cherry Hill. I want to first start with 15.1. It is really sad to see Miss Laura Monti leaving our district. She is a juggernaut of the juggernauts of the team at the Malberg ECC. My daughter had her during the pandemic where the preschool students were remote 1 day a week. And the level of connection that she was able to foster with my child, even during that, and have that connection was incredible. And she will be missed. Where she's heading to, she's going to be doing a great job making more of her, which is really important and great to see. But hopefully we can do more to retain our teachers who are that good and can do more. 15.7-ish assignments. I just want to say congratulations to Mr. Davis. I've known him since I was a student in the district and beyond that. It's really exciting to finally see him being moved into an assistant principal role. There's nobody more who represents the Cougar spirit and the Cherry Hill spirit than Mr. Davis. It's going to be wonderful. I think the team that the new principal is building over there is really going to make some vast and great changes and continue to evolve what really has created school spirit that didn't exist when I was a student. So very excited for that in our community. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And we go back to the line and it's I believe it's a double header. It's listed as a wider bridge, but I don't believe that's your name. If you could please state your full name and municipality and the item you're speaking on.
Alana Yaris, Cherry Hill. I'm speaking on item 14.7. As a parent who utilizes Malberg for preschool, I urge you to vote yes to before and after care at the preschool level, especially since the school day is 9:30 to 3:30. And although that's 6 hours, parents work more than 6 hours usually. And so the school day being only 6 hours means that I could probably only work 5.5 hours if I had to be at the school to drop off my child and pick up my child. And before and after care would help greatly in being able to alleviate some of the stress of the outside source and uses of providers outside of the school so that my child has care for as long as he needs, and my future child at the preschool will have care. And anyone who works a full-time job can send their kid to full-day preschool and have care the way they need. So I urge you again to vote yes on 14.7.
Okay, we go back to the room and I don't see anybody else at the podium. We go back online. There are no hands up online. So I'm going to close first public comment and we move on to our superintendent's comments. Dr. Morton, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just a few. Just wanted to share just a couple of things. So preschool before and after care at the Malberg ECC facility has been, as Ms. Stern likes to say, a pain point of the district for a very long time. I think the board and the administration has sought to be mindful of the concerns of the community and to listen to the community. And one of the things that we did in the previous school year was examine opportunities to provide additional support and services for our families. What you see with Right at School LLC is the culmination of a process that we follow and listening to the community to, in an attempt to provide support and a service that had not been provided previously. So just wanted to say additional details will be worked out as it relates to that program. It is a first for us. We're embarking on many firsts in the world of preschool. Thank you to Dr. Mahan for her work and bringing about these innovations and these supports for our community. So I think it's awesome. Just in reference to a comment about district goal number 9, special education transitions. So the document that's provided as part of the agenda is a condensed version of full, very detailed goals and action process. I'm not going to steal the thunder from Ms. Winters, but what I will say is that alternative high school children are not going into overcrowded classrooms. That is inaccurate. That is not going to take place. I will reserve my comments until the end, the rest.
Thank you, Dr. Morton. I hope you don't mind. I'm just sorry, everybody, that might have been my foot. I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to add one thing too, and that is that expanding school age childcare was part of our goals this past year. To conduct thorough research, identify opportunities for improvement, and explore additional avenues for enhancement. So I'm thrilled that we've not only explored, but we're actually being asked to action on this. And that's step one, and hopefully an expanded process, which we know is a pain point. And yes, we have received emails this week, which we appreciate and get. So yeah, continuing to hopefully make forward progress on that. Thank you. Okay. We move, that was really loud. I apologize. We move to our action agenda. Mrs. Winters, can you please move the CNI agenda?
Sure. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following: 13.1, approval of attendance at conferences and workshops for the 24-25 school year. 13.2, approval of out-of-district student placement for the 24-25 school year. 13.3, approval of services contract with NJ Commission for the blind and visually impaired for the 24-25 school year. And 13.4, approval of professional service agreements for the 24-25 school year. Do I have a second? Mr. Fain, are there any comments on the CNI agenda? I think it's pretty straightforward this week. I'm excited to see 24-25 school year everywhere. It's coming. All right, seeing no questions or comments from board members, Ms. Sugars, can you please open the voting?
Board members, you may cast your votes. Yes.
Well done.
You have a unanimous yes vote.
Okay, great. Thank you. Business and facilities, Mr. Greenbaum, can you please move the BNF agenda?
Thank you. Superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 14.1, approval of minutes dated June 4th. 14.2, approval of minutes dated June 11th. 14.3, approval of minutes dated June 25th. 14.4, financial reports. 14.5, resolutions. 14.6, resolution for the award of bids. 14.7, resolution approving services agreement between the board and Right at School LLC to provide preschool before and after care. 14.8, a resolution authorizing competitive contracting for the procurement of world language live instruction services. 14.9, resolution for the approval of contract with Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. 14.10, transfer of current year surplus to capital reserve. 14.11, approval of ESEA and IDEA fiscal year 2024-2025 budgets. 14.12, resolution authorizing the use of contracts with approved 1GPA National Purchasing Cooperative for vendors to provide goods and services. 14.13, resolution for the award of change orders. 14.14, resolution for the award of transportation. 14.15, acceptance of donations. And this week we have a donation from Readathon to be used for enhancing the literacy program at Bret Harte Elementary School. And that will do it. Do I have a second? Mrs. Winters, any questions? Yes, Ms. Trefane.
I am just curious at the process at which we selected the preschool before and after care company and when that decision was made.
I will defer to Mrs. Sugars if that's okay. I believe we put this out to bid several weeks ago, and this was the winning bid. Oh,
And I'm going to defer to Dr. Mahan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahan.
Thank you, Ms. Sugars. So the process did go out to bid. I worked very closely with the business office, with a member in that office to make sure that the bid was written properly. We looked at several previous RFPs done by other districts who have preschool style programs to ensure that we included everything in the bid that we needed for our families. Each of the companies who decided to respond had to submit a full packet responding to the RFP, which you received copies of in your Monday packet. We reviewed all of those. There was a small committee, myself, Mrs. Wethington, and Ms. Edwards, who is currently the preschool principal, Mrs. Wethington being the former supervisor of the school age childcare program, and myself as the current supervisor, well, recent current supervisor of the school age childcare program and responsible for the preschool expansion grant. After we reviewed all of the proposals, we had to rate them based on particular scored areas. we had additional questions after we scored each of the companies. Then we had 2 that we narrowed down to. We had a virtual meeting with both of those companies to ask specific questions, which actually stemmed around services for students, special education students, which they were able to answer. We rescored and then we were able to make a determination.
Thank you. That was very, very helpful. Thank you. Can I ask another
welcome.
one? So I was researching them a little bit and I looked online to some of the other districts in New Jersey that use them. They seem like a very reputable company to go with. My question is, do they have a prediction of what it would cost for the parents? Because it seemed like there was like differences in the districts that currently use them. And yeah, I guess that's my question.
So I'm actually scheduled to meet with them on Thursday to go over all of the details. I do not want to speak out of turn. They did give us some guidance on how they determine the pricing for particular school districts. They are aware of the pricing for our current SAC program, but again, as this is a private provider that we are bringing into the district, they will determine the rate.
Okay. Are there any other questions before we move on? Seeing none?
I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh,
Greenman.
I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, it's okay. I
Mrs.
just,
Stern.
could you just clarify, and perhaps Dr. Mahan can, if families choose to use this private provider that is offered, that's an option, but they're not, preschool families would not be required to choose this provider as their after-school option. Is that correct? If they wanted to, you know, if they had transportation they could provide to another provider, that they could provide that on their own. They're not mandated to use this company, just as if the provider, however, would be more accessible directly because of this relationship. Is that correct?
So similar to the setup that we have now with the school age childcare program, parents are not required to utilize the program that we offer. They can utilize any before and after care program that they are comfortable with. The program that we will be providing at the Malberg Early Childhood Center is right at school.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Greenman. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Trefane.
Sorry, I just thought of another one. Do you know it? I did see that you sent in the contract and all the information from that company. To be honest, I didn't get a chance to read through every detail of it. I trust that you have that under your belt. So my only question would be: is there a minimum requirement that we have of students that we would need to have for the program?
So we did not discuss minimums. And the reason we did not discuss minimums is because when we did the registration process this year, we actually surveyed all of the parents who applied for the preschool selection process. And we asked them specifically, will you be in need of before and after care on what days and what timeframes? So we had a really good handle on the number of families across all of our locations who will be in need. So our conversations were more focused around maximums, not minimums, because a number of families, as has already been discussed, this has been a pain point for us, and families certainly voiced that they needed before and after care based on the timeframes of the program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, Mrs. Sugars, please open the voting.
Board members, you may cast your votes.
Mrs. Sugars, I'm going to abstain on 14.10.
Mrs. Sugars, I'm also going to abstain on 14.10.
Okay, Ms. Sugars, I believe I have to abstain from 14.1, 14.2. I wasn't at those meetings.
Mrs. Sugars, I'm going to recuse myself from 14.4, and I'm also going to abstain from 14.10.
I'm sorry, the last item, Mrs. Niaz, 14.10.
Was an abstention.
Abstention.
Yeah.
So we have an abstention on, we have 3 abstentions on item 14.10. We have abstentions on 14.1 and 14.2. and one recusal on item 14.4. Motions carry.
Okay, we move on to our human resources agenda, and I will now move the HR agenda. Superintendent recommends, and I move the following: 15.1, termination of employment certificated; 15.2, appointments certificated; 15.3, appointments non-certificated; 15.4, leaves of absence certificated; 15.5, leaves of absence non-certificated; 15.6, assignment salary change certificated; 15.7, assignment salary change non-certificated; 15.8, other compensation certificated; 15.9, affiliation agreement. Are there any, do I have a second? Sorry, Mr. Greenbaum. Are there any questions? Okay. Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars, can you call the vote, please? Kim, are you logged in?
Okay, board members, you may cast your votes.
Mrs. Sugars?
Yes.
I need to abstain from 15.7 and 15.8 to avoid a conflict of interest. Yes to the rest.
Mrs. Sugars, I'm gonna recuse myself from 15.5 due to conflict of interest.
Okay, we have one recusal on 15.5. We have an abstention on 15.7 and 15.8. Otherwise, we have yes vote and the motion carries.
And with that, we want to congratulate Mr. Davis, who's here with us tonight on your appointment as an assistant principal at High School East. So first of all, congratulations.
Those who know Mr. Davis, he's affectionately known as CJ to all of us, well-known individual who served the East community for the past 2 decades, more than the past 2 decades. East graduate as well. This man truly embodies a love and a passion for that building, unknown like others. You know, it's a pleasure to see him receive this opportunity. CJ, we want to give you an opportunity to share some words as well.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Morton. Thank you, Dr. Morton. I hope I didn't mess that up for everybody else. It was probably about 15 hairs ago that I started in Cherry Hill. I've known Miss Staffen for a very long time, back when I was 16 years old. This has really been, you know, the joy of my life, being a member of the high school that I graduated from. Knowing that, you know, these two right here and I share a common bond in that, I think is something that's incredible. You know, just being a Cherry Hill Public School graduate is an amazing thing. Back in 2007, when I started as activities director, I anticipated that being a very short time period, and 18 years later, it was. It has been the joy of my life being part of that. That does not go away being an assistant principal. You know, you're still part of all of the activities, you're engaging with the kids, and it's something I am absolutely looking forward to. It's good to see all of you not in caps and gowns right now. And, you know, we hope to have a great school year being successful. I want to really thank Dr. Morton, Mr. Finkel, who is here as well, the Board of Education, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
What I want to know is who's going to lead the senior trip. Okay, we'll figure that one out, right? Okay, very good. Thank you. Congratulations. All right. We do not have any items to move for policy and legislation for a change.
Well, because policy and legislation is ceding this opportunity to strategic planning.
Aha. And with that, we will move on to, we have an item to move under strategic planning. Dr. Rude, get in shape for this item. It's a new thing. If you could please move the agenda.
The superintendent recommends that I move the following: approval 17.1, approval of 2024-2025 district goals. Do I have a second? Ms. Stern. Are there any questions? And for those questions, I'm gonna pass it over to Mrs. Winters.
Thank you so much. You did beautifully, Ben. So thank you to everybody for working with me through the goals process. I was asked to lead the goals process this year. Last year, when Ms. Fleischer led it, it started a new way of approaching goals, which is through the committees. So this year, what I tried to do was flesh out and build upon what was begun last year and add a little bit more structure to how we move goals through committees, making sure that board members could use the expertise they've developed on committees to really give substantive input on the goals that come through those committees, right? Because the hope is that on committees, we're really deep diving into the issue. So you have that background information. So we started actually right after graduation. The day after graduation, I sent out the goals timeline, gave us a running start. And then we did have committee meetings in July, which is unusual, but I wanted to make sure that we had enough time to really work through the goals process. So the first week in July, committees met and board members developed the goals through those committees with board member input. And then all of the changes and suggestions we had were merged into a draft document that came to the full board for review and discussion at our last meeting, which was July 9th. So the idea of this was to give everybody kind of two bites at the apple. The first was in the committee meetings where we were able to use our expertise to develop the goals. And then the full board got to discuss all the goals at a meeting in public so that committees that you weren't on, you were still able to give feedback and input and hear the discussion around those goals. So that gave everybody two chances to really speak with each other and develop the goals. Following the July 9th meeting, we had 2 weeks in between then and now. And during those 2 weeks, I want to thank each and every board member who took the time to go through the goals and email suggestions, feedback, input, deep thoughts, criticism, edits through their committee chairs, because it was really, I think, a good process working with all of you who contacted me. After July 9th, we actually created a new goal around special education that had not existed in the previous version of the document. So I think that was a really concrete benefit to doing it this way, that the goals were really able to evolve. And I think that ultimately the goals document that came out of it really reflects the current priorities of the board and the administration and sets us up for addressing the challenges and opportunities that we see for the 24-25 school year. I hope that board members found it to be an open, transparent, and inclusive process. And that was what I was going for, with multiple opportunities for feedback. So that was my hope. That was my quest. I'm going to be asking you for further feedback after tonight, because I think that whoever shepherds the process through next year, my hope is that we just continue to improve every year in how we approach this, so that we get better and better at doing this year over year. So now I just want to talk about some of the highlights of the goals document. And this is definitely not going to be everything, because there's a lot in there, but I just wanted to kind of hit some of the key points that I think came out of the goals discussion that reflect where we're going next year. And I do think that it really reflects some of the priorities and also some of the issues that we've been discussing. So the first thing I want to talk about, what I would argue is our central mission and goal is student achievement. That's the reason why we are all here, is to support student achievement. So I just want to discuss a few of the things that we put together around student achievement. First of all, I want to highlight the online data dashboard that's going to be done by December of 2024, which is not that far away when you think about it, to boost transparency and accountability by providing the key metrics for school and district performance. The idea is that we'll utilize the data collected through the online dashboard to target instructional areas for improvement at each school. So the data dashboard will be available, the goal is December of 24. I also wanted to highlight, when it comes to achievement outcomes for the NJSLA, which is something that we talked about NJSLA scores extensively in the fall, October, November. So the goal here is to meet or surpass state averages. And the question might be, well, how are we going to do that? That sounds like a lofty goal. There's a lot of things listed, but I just want to highlight two of them. One is going to be just at the elementary level. For an example, this year we're going to implement the Eureka Math Squared curriculum district-wide. Previously it was piloted. And also the implementation of the brand new ELA curriculum, which is Amplify CKLA. So those are just two concrete examples of things that are going to happen this coming academic year to support student achievement and boost our results on the NJSLA outcomes, which are important, but not as important as increasing the instructional efficacy for our students. I mean, the standardized test scores, I feel like it's like taking your temperature. It gives you a snapshot at one moment of time. But I really think the robust changes for both ELA and math for our kids, our elementary learners, are going to be huge. And I can't wait to see the outcomes there. Another big item under student achievement is our district preschool program. When I was not on the board at the time, but I remember zooming into a meeting where it was discussed that by grade 3, you really start to see the disparities between our youngest learners. And one of the best ways you can set students up for success is with an early childhood program that makes sure that they're coming into kindergarten ready to learn with all the background information they need and the skill set they have to really hit the ground running. So by 2027-28, we will enroll at least 90% of our 3 and 4-year-olds in our district preschool programs. And we are going to be getting a presentation this coming November, which is not that far away, about the enrollment targets for each school year, including the projections for each intermediate year. So that is a real step in the right direction, I think. It's seeing the growth of what our preschool program can do. And having had 3 children go through the excellent preschool program, our legacy program, we already had the half-day program, and knowing what the current full-day program looks like, I really think it's going to make a difference for our learners that we're going to see sustained through their academic careers all the way up to grade 12. I do want to highlight, just as we're talking about achievement, 2 goals that touch on our special education students, because I think that's something that the board has said this year that we really want to focus on is special education. And one of them is the expansion of access to AP courses at the high school level for historically underserved populations, including those with IEPs, And I think that's just something that's been missing and is key. And I'm looking forward to that. And also, as I mentioned, we actually ended up adding a goal following the discussion at our July 9th meeting about transitions between levels for our special education students. I think transitions are hard for all students. It's hard to make those jumps between preschool and K, 5 and 6. 8 and 9, and then 12 and out into the world, whatever that looks like. And I think for our special ed students, it's especially hard. And it's something that we wanted to focus on. So there's a brand new goal. Thank you, board members, for contributing to that. That focuses on our special ed students. Beyond achievement, which of course is my favorite thing to talk about, I wanted to highlight a few other things. And I think that they really reflect some of the larger conversations we've been having this year. And I want to really talk about how this is data-driven decision-making on this board. That, for example, with communication, we're developing the strategic communication plan that includes measurable objectives focused on moving district forward. That came out of the communications audit that the strategic planning committee did. So we have the communications audit information that translates into what's the plan going forward. Community relations, implementing a comprehensive community relations plan in the 24-25 school year to enhance stakeholder involvement. This is something where many of us on the board have said for years that we have such a wealth of resources in our community that's untapped. And I think that having our community members, having it be a 2-way communication between us and the community back and forth, we can only strengthen each other. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that community relations goal met. Strategic planning. Believe it or not, we're at the 5-year end of our previous strategic plan. We're going to launch into a new one. So by the conclusion of the 24-25 academic year, we will adopt a comprehensive 5-year strategic plan involving, again, extensive stakeholder engagement. The community will be involved to help and mold what the aspirations are for this district for the next 5 years. Balanced student distribution. Again, this came out of the demographic study that was done, the GRIP study, another data-driven process where we asked a demographer to come in and look at what the enrollment trends look like in our schools. And based on the data that we received, we're going to undertake a process to look at how to achieve balanced student distribution and maximize resource utilization across the elementary schools by the 26-27 academic year, which is, again, not that far away. And again, there will be extensive community feedback, input, and stakeholder engagement. I can't emphasize enough how much this is going to change our processes and I think create better outcomes. I really think that the more voices that are at the table, the more different voices who see things in different ways, the better the outcome. So I'm looking forward to that. We have goals again around student and staff wellness and school climate and culture, which were a highlight of the goals last year. We made significant progress. We're going to continue that. And then just 2 other things I want to highlight. And again, this is not the whole document. I'm not going to bore everybody with that, but just 2 other things that I want to bring out because I think it reflects the fact that the board is really trying to in my opinion, listen to where the needs of the community are, is that there's a goal around the SAC program, school age childcare. We just talked about the fact that community feedback around preschool showed us the need for a preschool before and after care program, and we responded with the RFP that went out, and now attempting to see how, an outside provider might be able to provide that service. But there are issues with SAC at the elementary level as a whole. So we're going to undertake a deep dive look at that this year to try to see where we can move forward with that. And also, there's a goal that came out of the P&L committee, which Mr. Mayor leads, around the HIB process to identify areas for enhancement. So I think that's another point when you talk about the HIB process. That's something that comes up a lot from community members, from board members. So we're going to take a look at that this year. So those are some of the highlights. It's an ambitious year, despite it being a transitional year. I mean, one of the things that we went into this process talking about is how once we do the new strategic planning process for the next 5 years, the goals may look very different this year. So this is sort of a transition year in between, but I think it's an important one. And I think that the increased input from all the board members, all 9 of us, made it a better process. I think that we came out with goals that reflect the board's priorities, the district's priorities. I think that we put in, it was funny because I told Ms. Stern one day I was overwhelmed with all the different reports and presentations and things we're going to get as a board. I actually sat down and typed it all into a document, because I said, how are we going to keep track of this? How are we going to? And I came up with a 2-page, single-spaced, bullet-pointed document. When you put together all the different reports to committees, reports to the board, all of the points that we're going to get, touch points, feedback, progress reports on how we're moving towards the goals. So I think there's really a lot in there where we're going to see progress throughout the year. And I mean, that's our role as the board, is not just to, put out there the what is the district supposed to be focusing on, but then also the accountability piece of it. And I think we've got maybe a lot to look at with that. And I think that, I hope that this process felt good for all the board members. I did get a lot of positive feedback after the last board meeting, that the discussion felt good. So that made me happy that everybody felt like it was a robust discussion, it was honest, and it was reflective of where we are. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, because that was a lot of talking, and throw it open to any other board members who want to add something. Maybe there's a goal that you really liked that I missed, or anything else they want to say about district goals before Mr. Rude does his awesome job and calls the vote. Any other board members? Mr. Mayor.
So no, I don't want to highlight any particular goals. Just from my perspective, I've been involved in the goals development all 3 years that I've been on the board. This has been the best process so far. It's been more transparent. It's been more detailed. And I think it has given, at least for me, an opportunity to, I think, better understand more board members' positions, concerns, worries, and have that, be mindful of all of that, and see that they've been taken seriously. It's also the document itself. If you look at it on the whole, it's aspirational, but at the same time concrete, and that's pretty rare. Aspirational goals are, they are what they are. They're difficult to achieve sometimes because they're not concrete enough. I think there's a lot here that is concrete. It remains to be seen. There's also some built-in flexibility here, which I think there needs to be, as wide and as transformational as some of these goals are. I think that's important. But overall, I'm very happy with how these goals came together. And so for you, Mrs. Winters, thank you for shepherding this process. Don't be so sure someone else is going to do it next year, because you might have done too good a job. Thank you to Dr. Morton and the administration for providing the kind of support and input and data and advice that we needed as board members, because this is one of those areas where and I've said this many times, we're not the experts. Administration, teachers, staff, you're the experts. You know what works. We I think, come up with a number of asks, things that we recognize as important, not just that we recognize, but the community recognizes as well. How to accomplish those things, that's really it's not our area of expertise. So we appreciate, and I appreciate, your input in helping to craft goals that we can track through the next year and beyond, because some of these are going to be multi-year goals, of course. So that's it. That was put together well. A lot of work. Won't all be easy, but I'm excited to get in and start working on it. Thank you.
Thanks. I mean, I think to your point, like one of the challenges I think with a school district this big, when you're talking about over 10,000 students at all different levels, pre-K-12, is that, the school-based goals, I think, will be really interesting coming after this, because that's what comes after this process. This is not the end of the goals process. This is sort of the sky-high district level view. And then after that, there's the building-based goals. And so I think it's, there's this dual pull to have it be specific enough that it's measurable, but also recognize that it can't possibly be one size fits all, because it's not going to look the same at pre-K, at 3rd grade, at 8th grade, at 12th grade. You have to have accountability, but flexibility. So I think we squared the circle pretty well on that. And I do want to say, I think that the development through the committee process, adding that this year, even though who wants to come to an extra committee meeting in July, I think it was useful. I mean, I think the HR goals in particular, I feel like were measurably, demonstrably better after we had the HR discussion. I think there was a level of specificity added to the HR goals that wasn't there before. And that's just one example. I mean, all the committees did excellent work, but that was one example of a committee that I was on that I really felt like when we walked into the room, it was good. And when we walked out of the room, it was better. So I think if I could speak to whoever inherits this next year, maybe it's me, maybe it's not. I thought, again, as much as nobody wants to hang out at another committee meeting in July, I thought the committee process actually worked really well for small group discussion around goals and did make them demonstrably more specific and better than they had been in the past. Any other board members have goals, praise, tomatoes to be thrown, deep thoughts? Ms. Stern.
First, thank you, Mrs. Winters specifically. This was a big lift. I pulled up my email I sent out on June 15th, day after graduation. Happy start of summer. And we have an aggressive timeline to complete district goals. And there it began, which you are already prepared, the document, which was fantastic. So in 5 weeks' time, with you on the board side at the helm and Dr. Morton, you on the administrative side with your team, I think, practice makes progress, right? So as Mr. Mayor referenced, having done this for a few years and been, first year was not a great process when I was involved, my involvement was not, that first year I felt like we were just kind of shooting in the dark of how do we revamp this process. We had that year, actually my first year on the board, New Jersey School Board Associations came and they kind of gave some documents and okay, you're on your own. It was like a really interesting experience because that's not their role. Their role is to kind of provide us guidance and then we have to execute, right? So this was honestly, the process was fantastic. So I really appreciate I know it was a lot of work. And it was a lot of work for all of us because week after week, we got updates, we were asked for feedback, we got responses from Dr. Morton and rinse, repeat, right? So we've been at this consistently with Dr. Morton and your team has been at this. So, for me, I remember sitting in this room at this table, looking at achievement data, looking at some of the, some of the research that had come, the data we had been provided a few years ago, and the question of, well, why is this data look this way? What's the root cause? And that was kind of the end of the topic, end of the discussion. And it's like, just really left this sense of like, we need to gain traction on these, concerns, these issues. Fast forward to where we are today. I'm, two things. First of all, I said to Dr. Morton, I think these are extremely ambitious. Are they too ambitious is the question I asked Dr. Morton, because there's so much in here. Which I'll give you a chance to speak on, but for right now, I'm gonna keep going. And also, as a board, talk about accountability, our feet are to the fire, as you said, Mrs. Winters, because now you have a 2-page document of deliverables that are in this document that now we have to track too, to make sure we are meeting the responsibility to the community, to the students, right? Our elected responsibility. So it's a lot. And it's fantastic. It's exciting. I'm particularly appreciative that, we started a process a couple of years ago of interviewing special education families. We knew we needed to do better. We wanted to do better for those families. The resounding outcome of those meetings was the transitions are a significant challenge for families across age groups, across whatever the special education needs are of the students. The transition points are very difficult. They're difficult for our general education population. They're especially difficult for our special education population. That's also my lived experience, but that's what the families told us. Well, now we have a goal to address that specifically. So, I just think there's so much that has been brought to the table. I just feel like this process is manifesting deliverables to do this. But it doesn't stop there. As you said, this now goes to the schools. Why is it, in my mind, I look at this document and I think, okay, do we have enough indicators of success? Well, why don't we have a very specific singular indicator of success, let's say for certain achievement. And then I look at, well, special education. Are we going to apply the same expectations of our special education students? Do we want exactly equally the same expectations for our ELL learners as we do does that make sense? Or do we need to defer to the experts in the buildings who say, listen, in our building, with the programs we have, these are the ways that we want to implement indicators of success along, the district level goals. And I think, quite honestly, it took me some time to wrap my head around understanding that, but it makes so much sense to me. And so, that's kind of the next step in the process, is for the buildings to then take this and, apply it. So, I know there was a ton of reading for everybody again and a ton of tracking. And I just want to really thank everybody for the questions, and Dr. Morton again for all of the responses. I will tell you, it feels really, really good to hear from community members who list out problems, right? Challenges. And I can be able to have a response and say, I'm glad you're bringing that up. This is where we're addressing that in our goals. This is what we've done this year to address it from a personnel perspective. And I can list out the ways in which we either address things or continue to have a plan to address them. That feels really good. It feels really bad to speak to a community member and then bring a concern and not have already defined path forward to addressing it. Or see a student struggling and not have a defined path forward. So I'm excited. So Dr. Morton, I hope, Mrs. Winters, I'd love to hear from Dr. Morton if this is too ambitious, because that was a question of mine.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Stern. And thank you to the board for a collaborative process. Thank you to the administrative team as well for the guidance and the application of the expertise that exists amongst the team. Absolutely, the goals are ambitious, as they should be. Our kids are with us for a very short period. The students that we serve and the families that we serve deserve ambitious goals. If there are areas that we know are opportunities of improvement, we need to attack those with vigor and with tenacity. That's the attitude that's embodied from this administrative team. That's my philosophy. That's my philosophy on life. Be cliche, I'll say, we have to get after it, because our kids deserve the best. And they deserve us to, take that approach. So they're absolutely ambitious. but I believe that they're realistic. I understand the personnel and the people that we have, and their ability to execute and implement. And we're definitely going to get it done. Our expectation throughout the process, I think, when we started the conversation, Ms. Winters and I was, clear expectations, ensure that there's transparency, inclusion of ideas and information, try my best to incorporate the feedback as I heard the discussions, and the team has done the same as well, whether it be through committee meetings or email exchanges or just other feedback that's been provided. So the document itself is detailed. We believe it's targeted, and again, as we think about ambition, it provides accountability measures. There should be accountability measures for everyone seated at these seats here, and that's important. So either we're getting it done or we're not. And that's the bottom line. But I have the utmost confidence that we absolutely will get it done and will achieve. So,
Ms. Gallagher.
I just want to make a comment as well. I think the process might be fantastic depending on where you sit at the table. Not everybody might have seen the process as fantastic. I think it was better than last year. I will say that for sure. There was more transparency and communication as to the process of the goals, but I think more input in the front end from the majority of the board might be more helpful next year, and I'd be more than happy to provide more feedback. I just want to say that, everybody is providing positive feedback. I just want to, there is another side to it, and I just want to voice that. And I've also asked questions for clarification, and there have been times that I don't feel like I'm getting the answers that I need to. I'm not against the goals. I just feel like there are questions that I still have that I haven't received full answers to. So thank you.
So I'm sorry to hear that. And we'll definitely, so like I said, on my end, the next step is going to be going through asking for board member feedback. I really tried, and I'm just being completely honest, as CNI chair, anything that came to me, a goal that was under CNI, whether it was preschool or achievement, anything like that, to respond back and incorporate the feedback and send that up to be incorporated into the goals. If there were ever points that you felt that you went through the process and it didn't work for you, that's important to hear. But I will say from my perspective, and we all have different perspectives, I was hopeful that starting the goals conversation in committees gave board members that feeling of being engaged right up front from the start. And that was my hope. If it didn't work out that way, then we can try something different next year. And I was also hopeful that I thought the discussion 2 weeks ago was really good. And I was hopeful that over the 2 weeks interceding then and now, that people would continue to work the process. You can laugh, but I actually sent Dr. Morton literally 2 pages of edits. I'm talking punctuation. It was maybe it was a little bit much, but that's the way my mind works. I really wanted to go through and understand it. Are the goals exactly the way that I would have written them if I would have written them by myself? No, but that's collaboration. They shouldn't be, I do think, however, that the goals embody in broad strokes what the board as a whole envisions are the priorities of the school district for the next academic year. If it doesn't, from your perspective, then I would say then we need to work more in communication and collaboration at the board level, because I really tried to make sure to the best of my ability that everybody's voice was heard and that the process was transparent and clear. If I have a question, if I have a revision or something I need more specificity on, where do I go with that and then action on it? That was my objective. If I didn't meet that, then that's definitely something we can talk about in the future. But I don't think, I appreciate all the praise. I don't think it was the perfection of all goals process. This is my first shot at trying to do this. I did the best that I could.
Besides, coming from I'm just saying it was more on, and the transparency and the communication was there. I'm not saying it wasn't, but what I guess and we don't have to talk about this right now. We can talk about it, but my point is that when they got to committee, the goals were set, like the goals were formed at that point. Like when they came to committee in July, you know, we had a list of idea of goals. Like, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that like, from my perspective, not being a chair, right? Initial brainstorming conversations. And so against the goals, I'm just saying from the process. Yeah. So that's just what
I think this year, and let me just say this, then we'll get other people's perspectives. But like my understanding coming into it this year when I was tasked with this was that this is the 5th year of the 5 years of 2020 to 25. So I didn't have as a chair any information that you didn't have going into the start of the goals process. It was taking last year's goals and updating them for this year. So there wasn't like a pre-meeting that occurred prior to the committee meetings where that occurred. It was taking the 2024 goals and updating them for 25 with an eye to the fact that once we go through the strategic planning process, this might look totally different next year. So you and I are lucky because we're going to be here for that, because that'll be well, I guess it'll be my 3rd year on the board. You're re-upped for another couple of years. But like this coming year, I think it will be different because we'll be starting with the new 2025 strategic plan and the goals that build out of that. Whereas this year was it was the last iteration of the previous session. So there wasn't anything that was pre-decided or pre-baked going into committee other than the starting point was last year's goals. And then the newer ones that were added were HIBs, which came out of a board discussion, and special education. Other than that, everything was an update of a previous year's goal. So Ben, I'm sorry, Dr. Rude.
I appreciate your opinion, Kim. I think I do want to reiterate that what we received like in strategic planning was last year's goals to start with. So that first time we talked about them in July, nobody else had been privy to anything that you hadn't seen at the same time. So if you were feeling that, I just want to make sure that that's not it. But I appreciate that you had a different perspective, and definitely encourage you to, what specific goals, like, make sure you voice those concerns to everybody. Because if we don't hear from you now, then we don't know. But definitely, your comments can make the goals better for next year. I will say, like, and Ms. Stern said this as well, that it was a tight timeline. So the process was good, but it was fast. And, I will say, like, I didn't have a lot of time to look at them. I've been really busy with work. So, whenever anything is done over an abbreviated timeline like that, it means that some people aren't really going to be able to, contribute the way they might want to. So maybe, more time in the future would be awesome. It's kind of hard to do that because, we're on a pretty rigid schedule throughout the year as a board. But definitely, I for one appreciate your feedback and understand that not every process is going to appear the same way to everybody. So thank you for your comments.
And just to address that, last year we voted on goals in August, but the feedback we got from the administration was that didn't give enough time for the school-based goals to be done. So that was the reason I guess I will take some of the blame / criticism. The compressed timeline to vote on goals by the end of July was me, because I had asked Dr. Morton in a CNI meeting, what's the goal on goals? Like, what's the objective here? Where's the target? And he said, end of July. That way there's time for the school-based goals. And I personally worked the timeline backwards from there. So that compression, the blame or credit for that falls upon me, because I was trying to make sure that there was enough room on the back end for the school-based goals to be developed. If that's too tight of a timeline for board members, we can talk about that, next year, because I appreciate your feedback that like people are busy, people have stuff going on at work. Summer is hard with little kids at home. I said to Mr. Greenbaum, I can only think in 10-minute increments because my children are in the house. And every 10 minutes, somebody needs a snack. Like it's just my reality right now. So it is really challenging to do this, you know, whether you're working full time or you're parenting full time or whatever you're doing full time in July with vacations and children and work and everything. So I do appreciate that. And maybe that's something we can look to improve next year. But June feels like the rush towards graduation. And, you know, so we'll figure it out. But that's really good feedback. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Ms. Stern?
Yes, so Ms. Gallagher, I also appreciate the feedback. You know, we always want to do better, right? Year after year. And I appreciate hearing that it felt better this year. I know last year, you know, I remember you saying that you didn't feel included. You didn't feel like you knew about this work and you weren't involved in it. So I'm glad to hear that was better. I want to ask you specifically, if I could. So I'm looking at the email that I sent out right before our committee meetings. And I said, we are asking that everyone review this document, which was Mrs. Winter's document, which had it pointed to the original goals from 23-24. We're asking everyone to review this document and the embedded links and come to committee meetings prepared to discuss. So that was like, from where I sat, that was the invitation to ask each board member to bring ideas. So it sounds like that didn't compute to you. So what would have been a better way to say that? Or even approach that?
Well, it doesn't sound like you're looking for fresh ideas. This is be prepared, look at the document and be prepared to discuss the document, right? So, I mean, I've read it. I've read every email. I went through all the links. It's not because I didn't, but you know, a lot of it was like the chairs are meeting. The chairs had a discussion, right? And if you're not a chair, then you're not in those discussions. So that's what I'm trying to point to. And it's nothing that I didn't compute.
Well, no, so the language would have been better if it had said fresh idea, bring fresh ideas. That you didn't feel like that was conveyed in the email.
No. And at any point, I mean, and really kind of at any point during the process, from my perspective.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful feedback. We'll definitely think of it. I think that, I mean, I did see some of your feedback throughout, trying to sit with it and synthesize. And I think that, you know, it's not always easy. It's a lot. It was compressed. It's a lot of information. It doesn't always synthesize well. And I think that's, you know, it's a challenge to deal with for sure. It's a lot. I mean, I just think it's a lot of work. And, you know, I think the normal, as Mrs. Winter says, we normally do committee of the whole in July, but the intention of engaging and getting true collaboration was to start in committee, which is like, as you referenced, Mrs. Winters, like HR brought a lot of ideas, had a lot of fresh discussion. And that was the intention of exactly why we did ask everyone to come in and meet in full committee meetings in July for that intentional purpose. So it didn't kind of get lost in committee of the whole.
Well, and I think next year will feel like that fresh start that maybe it didn't feel like this year. But I also think that the charge this year to me was to the transition year, like to update, not like a revamp this year, but that was the charge that was given to me, was to update the goals. And then this coming year with the strategic plan. And just to clarify, like the chairs did not meet other than our regular chairs meeting to work on goals. Like I had revisions coming through the chairs, just that way it wasn't like 9 of us talking past each other, but that was structural. That wasn't like gatekeeping, or at least in my mind.
So Winters, I'd like to pull this back. As the person running the strategic planning vote, if I could take questions. I feel like we're getting into an area of kind of back and forth and some defensiveness, and I really don't think that's at all in the spirit of talking about the goals tonight. We were talking about what our goals are. I do appreciate Ms. Gallagher for voicing her opinion, and I think there's probably some discussions to be had, but I don't think right now, if I could say, I don't think right now is the best venue for that. So if Mr. Fain, I'll give you the floor, but then if we could move to the vote, I think that would be best. Agreed. Okay, Mr. Fain.
So somebody that is doing this for the first time, I don't have a baseline to judge anything off. So something that I think would be helpful is having a very intentional conversation about where we are with the goals, especially since these goals were a runoff from last year. I think one of the pieces that was in my opinion, that was very successful about the HR committee discussion is that we kind of took a step back and evaluated where we were. We were able to get some insight from Ms. Lieber about where she was and what her intentions were for the year. And we kind of set a baseline and then moved on from there. And I think that that's something that we kind of, I guess, again, from my perspective, that I would have liked to see is maybe had an overall discussion about where we are, because it's very difficult to understand what we've achieved and where we want to go if we don't really understand where we are. I know there's always 1,000 things going on and we can use numbers, but that to me was a big reason why the discussion was successful in HR. Because I feel like that was maybe something that was missing from the overall discussion, which led it to seem like we were starting from somewhere that had previous discussions, because we never really had a board discussion of where we are and where we intend on going, kind of thing.
Thank you. I think that's a fair observation. Okay, with that, if any other comments about the goals themselves or any other questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars, could you please call the vote?
Board members, you may cast your votes. So we have 3 no votes, Ms. Sherfain, Ms. Gallagher, and Mrs. Niaz, and we remaining board members all voted yes.
Okay, well, Dr. Root, don't get used to it. I'm not sure how often we're going to have votes in strategic planning, but I'm glad we had one tonight. I'm just joking around. I'm joking around. Thank you for leading that. Okay, we move on to new business. Is there any new business this evening? Mrs. Winters.
I have some new business. I would like to ask for help from the community because we have some openings for Spanish teachers in the district. So if anybody is a Spanish teacher, knows a Spanish teacher, we could really use Spanish teachers at all the levels. If you go to the CHCLC website and click on employment, I'm just saying it's a great opportunity to work for a wonderful school system. So just putting it out there, it would be really neat. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. It's helpful. Other new business from any board members? Okay, we'll move on to old business. Mr. Mayor.
So it's sort of quasi old business, but it's important business that I think for the rest of the board members to recognize that there was another LMC meeting this past 2 weeks ago. It was the LMC Executive Committee, another opportunity for us to see the direction that the staff, as they work together collaboratively, have come together with real purpose to move forward and address a lot of the very important issues that they see from their perspective. One of the things that they talked about and that I expect will continue to be an issue with LMC and that we can talk about at the board as well, is delivery of professional development, to make it actionable professional development, not just checking the box, but what do staff at each level, at each school truly need? What works best for them so that they can immediately turn around and use that to improve outcomes for students in the classroom. So that was one of the issues that was discussed. I'm happy to say that the calendar was not addressed at that particular meeting, but it was another opportunity for us, and with respect to business of the board, whether we discuss it in old business each time or not. I just think it's important for us to continue to support Dr. Morton and the administration and with the recognition of how we view LMC, what it is doing, how well it's working, and looking forward to LMC being branched out now into each of the levels as well. It was a great meeting, and I think we should probably, I'll make it a point to report out, or Mrs. Winter, since the two of us sit on that on the committee each time. But it was another good opportunity. If there are any questions about LMC, I'm happy to try and address those. Dr. Morton, I'm sure, could do a better job, but that's it.
Thank you. Any other old business from anybody? Board members? Okay, so we will move on to second public comment. This is our second public comment period. It is an opportunity to speak about any school-related topic. If you would like to speak now, please clearly state your name and municipality. We will alternate between speakers in the room and those who are online. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. The timer on the screen will indicate that. Public comment is an opportunity for members of our community to comment on matters relevant to the operations of Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on relevant matters. Under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums, statements which demean individual community members or groups or which are irrelevant to the operations of the school district or repetitious will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. And as we always do, we will always offer the opportunity to speak first to students. So if you are here in the room, it looks like we do have a student at the podium. Might be easier for us to identify you. But if you are online and you are a student and you'd like to speak, kindly put an S after your name when you raise your hand so that we know that you are a student and we'll give you the opportunity first. And with that, we would go to the room. And if you could please state your full name, your municipality.
Hello, my name is Erilyn Camp, and there's a few things I would like to speak on. First off, as a student at Cherry Hill East, I would just like to emphasize that there are so many East teachers, and that the fact that Mr. Davis has really shown as one of the teachers that I have never sat in a classroom with, but still has showed himself to be such an integral part of the East experience, especially as the activities director, just building up all students, all clubs, and really being that teacher that cares about the students themselves, which I am glad to say many of our teachers do, but checking up on students as school can be a rigorous, stressful time, really caring about the students as a person and not only as an academic striving to achieve many things, but he really cares about the students themselves. So I congratulate him on his assistant principal position. I also would like to speak today, not as the East BOE alternate representative or a student from East, but as a proud older sister to a preschool aged little brother. And I would like to say, with aligning with some of the goals for next year that Ms. Winters has mentioned, one of the ones that really stuck out to me was community relations goal, and it really helping one another, because a lot the community has to say can help us, and a lot that you guys have to say can help the community. So I really urge the board, as you guys are looking for places to have preschools and looking for facilities for all these new students coming in, I think it would be a really good opportunity to reach out to preschools that are currently functioning in the district, because I know that as we are now offering a more a free alternative to these paid tuition preschools, I think it would be a mutually beneficial relationship to allow these facilities to possibly become one of the Cherry Hill Public School facilities. So I think reaching out to these facilities would be beneficial. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Erilyn. And we go online, and the phone number is 788. If you could please state your full name and your municipality when the timer starts. If you could please state your full name and municipality and unmute.
Okay, my name is Jeff Podowitz, and I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I'm making comparisons now between two school districts. Cherry Hill Township, For 2023, 2024, we had approximately 10,600 students. Our free and reduced lunch was about 18%. Required uncapped aid for this past year was approximately 38.5 million, and our actual state aid was 36.3 million. According to numbers found on SFRA District Profile Education Law Center, we were around $2,700, $2,700 per pupil above our local fair share. According to the state, we were getting taxed much more, significantly more. Howells Township enrollment about 5,264 students. This is 2023, 2024. Free and reduced lunch, approximately 19%, in line with us. Uncapped state aid was $20 million. State aid itself was $21.7 million. The key is they received about twice as much in state aid per pupil that we did. Those numbers are very, very important. All right? Okay? However, they were also overtaxed like we were. Their per pupil stated their local, they were about $1,000 over their local fair share. That's important. We were about 2.5 times as much as they were. According to the state calculations, this year, 2024, 2025, our state aid was supposed to be $29.5 million. Howell state aid was supposed to be for this year, 24-25, approximately $22 million. Again, they're getting more state aid for us. Demographics appear to be similar of the students. That is important. Okay? However, in their case, they have had their aid cut during SFRA, but they were getting adjustment aid. So the total cumulative effect was about $50 million. Their tax levy increased about 7%. Ours increased more. And their school board president really, really wanted a balance between taxes and the raising of things, and the raising of the tax.
Levinsky, thank you. Your help with that. We move back to the microphone, and if anyone would like to speak, we go back to the room. Okay. If you could kindly state your name and your municipality.
Yes, Harvey Vasquez, Cherry Hill. I think this is the most I've heard the word special education in a board meeting for the 2 years I've been coming here. So I do appreciate that the light is finally shining on our community. Although I'm happy to see that special education transition has been added to your goals, I would argue that this specific action aligns more with goal number 1. Goal number 1, which is create frameworks of learning and support for all students to develop the skills needed for social and emotional wellness, rather than goal number 2, which is to develop highly engaging learning-centered experiences with an environment that promotes voice, choice, and passion for learning. As I mentioned during my last public hearing, the difficulty facing many of our special education students are the need of support services as they move on to the next grade. You cannot expect our special education students to develop highly engaging learning if they are lacking the basic supports to highly engaging curriculum. I exhort this board to realign this action and look at this as a special education parent would. The fact that this district continues to expect our special education students to excel while lacking basic support and services is incredulous to me. I asked this administration to speak with your educators, okay? Speak with your educators in special education as to what is their most challenging burden. And I can guarantee you that shortage of support staff will be one of the issues. I truly believe if early identification of these students is done, their transition will be vastly improved. This means assessments and evaluations. As you know, there are 3 types of referrals: parent, school staff, and state agencies referrals. there's no shame in school representatives taking the lead. And once your first line teachers take this lead, the administration should do their best to assess those leads and follow suit. Many times, the referrals from teachers die at the administration. And that's what's happening. That's why you can't expect these students to move on to the next grade and be successful. Our special education students need the support and services that they are required by law to have. And this district continues to ignore that. So I exhort this board, first of all, to realign that goal because it should be in your first goal, as I mentioned in my last public hearing, and not in goal number 2, because you can't expect them to do well if you don't provide them the services and support that they need. Thank you.
Okay, we go back to the line and we have, again, Laura Ann's iPad. If you could please say your full name and municipality.
And I'm from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So I just listening to the word goals discussion. I think it's pretty admirable that you've done it within a forward time span, but in the past, and even though you've gone to a new model, perhaps you should have started this as far back as April. Though I have read your previous board goals, I certainly hope there are measurable words that you've achieved them. But one of the things that concerns me, even though I was corrected, is that you're very happy that you've added pre-K after school program with the potential of a new provider. But what about the other students in our district and their parents that desperately need pre-K? Are we going to expand to other things? Are you going to ask the new company to run a pilot program in one of our schools? I think you have really shortchanged the rest of the students in our district who also desperately need childcare, regardless of whether the times are different for your pre-K program. All the kids and their parents deserve the same opportunity to have childcare within their school. Thank you.
Okay, we go back to the room if anyone would like to speak. Please say your full name and your municipality when the timer restarts.
Hi, I'm Sarah Jocelyn, Cherry Hill. I have a couple of comments. First, related to the goal to boost performance on testing. You did not include the achievement for science test in your thing. Second, I would like to understand when the next QSAC testing will be, and I think that should be part of your consideration in the goals, because of course you don't measure just once in every 4 or 5 years. Third, I would like to bring forth that it's very important to have youth voice and engagement, and there's an opportunity to do that through the United Nations. In September of this year, the United Nations will be focusing on the future, on accelerating achievement of global goals. They are seeking youth voice, and there will also be a compact for future generations. I think this is something that should be part of communication with our students. Going back into the area, I'm very excited to hear you have an improved communication plan on the agenda. I do not have children in preschool. I have grandchildren that are in preschool in other districts. But even though I have looked, I have not seen the right place to find the outcome of the lottery, the number of applicants, the number of slots that were filled, where we are, what the plan is. I hear we're putting in before and after school care as an option. This is excellent. I needed that. I was a working mom. So I applaud that, and I did use the SAC program for my children. But I think as part of your communication plan, and particularly when you talk about expansion, moving forward with pre-K, when you talk about the impact of community, and when you talk about the extreme benefit of pre-K for children to be kindergarten ready, you need to include the full community. And you need to make it available in a place that somebody looking at the website doesn't have to go through minutes, okay? Doesn't have to try to say, well, can I call a communications person and try to find the right answer to this question? It's essential that the community as a whole understand the importance for the success of the overall of our children, whether they're in special needs or any other place, whether they're transferring in. to have the benefit of this. You talk about having 90% of preschool in district schools. I think you really need to clarify that, what that means, because we have a lot of other options and parents can make different choices. So I think kindergarten ready is the focus. And I do think you should look at the measurable part of that goal and provide more definition. Thank you.
Okay, there are no more hands online. If there's anyone else in the room who'd like to speak, I'd encourage you to approach the podium now. And you just wait for the timer to restart.
Yoni are still Cherry Hill. I'm really excited to hear that we're pushing about AP. However, the district hasn't done a great job in terms of dual enrollment, and that with the recent news of coming out with the AP scoring shift, I don't know how much of that is divine hysteria from the public, but I think dual enrollment is a path forward that we really need to take. I'm really excited to hear that we're looking at making inclusion an opportunity in honors and AP courses. But as a special education teacher myself, how will that be information be passed along during IEP meetings? And how will that be shared? And how will that be communicated down the line? I often talk about with parents in it because I don't say expert. I know too much about dual enrollment due to my own degree work, being heavily involved with that. But parents shouldn't have to turn to me to go and get that information, to know that's even an opportunity to do that. And also the fact that Stockton still has scholarships available. Just figure out, how do we push out that information? I'm excited that we now have Ms. Stafford in her role because she's been a champion for years in the district. I think that will significantly help. Another concern being related to facilities. In the past, Carusi has had an incredible welcome program, which allows sixth graders over a period of August to come in, tour the building. Carusi is offline for hopefully before the school year starts, because I don't want to have nightmares of what happened when I started at Rosa. We had to go to Camp Rosa for a week and then get kicked back into a building. So I'm a little sensitive to building construction and bod work. So just working and figure out how we can better integrate that. And also a few people have posted on social media having new students moving into the district. When my family came back to Cherry Hill, my son was going into first grade. Betsy McCuster was the interim principal, and we reached out to her and she was able to do a tour and bring my child in. If we could just put some of that information out for new families of how to make them feel more welcome, even though the teachers are obviously off, but to even just come in, meet the principal and try to break down some of those barriers so the students feel like they're not getting lost, because even our elementary schools are bigger than some schools in other districts. They are very large buildings. So just figuring out a way to make it so the student feels more welcome, included, knows where a bathroom is, little things like that could really help them and make them feel more at home, and they have a friendly face to turn to on that first day of school, because that's always a challenging time for any student, be it pre-K all the way through high school. Thanks.
Okay. We go back to the line. I don't see any hands up online, so we'll go back to the room. If anyone else would like to speak, please approach the podium now. And when you do, please wait for the timer. Please state your full name and municipality.
Hello, Guy Holtzman, Cherry Hill. 6 months ago, I bought a house next to Cherry Hill East, right next to the yard. When the baseball season started, baseball started flying in the air, landing in my backyard by the dozens, until eventually one of them hit my car, left a size this big. I ran out to the coach, told him stop, because my kids are playing outside. Said that's not my responsibility. The athletic director is the one who's responsible. Spoke with the athletic director. Apparently, and his response was, talk to your insurance. Whatever happens, that's your problem. Also, he said pretty much, and I quote, the field is there since the 70s. It was here before you bought your house. It will be there after you bought your house, which is total nonsense. According to the law, the tort law, according to common sense, because imagine it was a shooting range there and I moved my family there and said, yeah, that's your problem. We're shooting you too, or just even throwing rocks as part of our game. A week later, my wife and son, 1-year-old, were outside. He was hit in the back with a baseball. It was then that I contacted the police, and then contacted eventually everybody, like the superintendent, Miss Sugars, I think Mr. Meyer and Miss Stern, and the principal, told them about the problem, asked them to move the baseball field just 15 feet diagonally, put trees, put something. I got really no response other than saying, it's your problem, which is amazing because it's illegal and it shows lack of caring about human lives, especially my children, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, 1-year-old, who actually have to be prisoners when baseball season is done, which is insane. By the way, one of the things that the athletic director told me, I'm the first one who ever complained, my neighbor said, and I showed her photos and showed him photos of dozens of baseball in her backyard, including in the past, it was a sign said, no trespassing, because the players and the coach used to piss in her backyard. Now, to make things short, in my book, I don't want to press charges, but I will, like I lost it. But that would be the waste of everybody's taxpayers' dollars, because at the end, you guys are my taxpayers' dollars. And you should know this is happening. This is your accountability. This is something that the Board of Education, the superintendent need to figure out. It cannot be that baseball are landing at people's homes and may strike them. Just simple as that. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Don't see any hands online. We go back to the room if anyone else would like to speak. All right, I'm going to close public comment and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Morton for superintendent's comments.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stern. I'd just like to mention as well, so we heard about the appointment today of Mr. CJ Davis as assistant principal at High School East. There was also another individual on the agenda as well, Mr. Ray Robinson Jr. Mr. Robinson is being appointed this evening as well. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it out this evening, but we are definitely excited about his appointment. He comes to us from East Hampton Township School District, where he's an assistant principal, and he does a little bit of everything in that building. He's truly a jack of all trades and an amazing influence in the building. Had an opportunity to spend some time with him along with Mr. Finkel, who's here. Thank you, Mr. Finkel, for being here as well. And he's truly an inspirational figure. He is going to infuse High School East with a tremendous amount of energy and enthusiasm. So we're excited to have him join the Cherry Hill Public Schools team as well. Just like to mention as well, summer is moving right along. Construction projects are moving full steam ahead. Summer cleaning is moving full steam ahead. I'd like to just give kudos to Ms. Sugars, Mr. Steve Nicolella and his team, buildings and grounds, maintenance, custodial staff. It's a difficult challenge, right? So we have construction projects that are taking place while summer cleaning is taking place, which is most important to get buildings back clean and ready for the return of students in what feels like just a few weeks, while projects are taking place and while we have summer programs running as well. But the team, again, has approached it with tremendous optimism, wonderful attitudes, and a level of expertise where we see projects getting done and we see things happening. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say kudos to Mr. Nicolella and the entire team, and Ms. Sugars as well. One of the things that we heard, quite often this evening is this idea of community involvement, ensuring that there is community voice. Ms. Roscoff, who's seated there, our supervisor of special projects, has been brought on just to assist us, in that area. We had an outstanding meeting last week with about 24 community members, where we began to engage in these critical conversations. The conversations centered around predominantly elementary redistricting and our needs. And, we threw some big essential questions out there. And as I stood in the room and interacted with the community members, it was just a reminder for me about, what I truly love about this community, the level of passion and engagement that is consistently evident from people within the community. And as we think about how to engage the community collectively and comprehensively, not all those people represented in the room actually had children in the district. Some have had children who have graduated and moved on, but others are just community members who are engaged and involved and want to be a part of the process. Ms. Roscoff reached out to them, and they were happy to oblige and show up for us. So we look forward to expanding that approach. We will be getting out there, whether it be to a community center, school, or a home near you. In this next year, we'll be going out to bring the conversation to the community and hear feedback from the community. So again, just a plug and a reminder of the importance of, community voice. We have some big projects that we're working on as we move forward. There's definitely some big things that are necessary and are needed for us to do. We talked about our 5-year strategic plan. As we go through that strategic planning process, we will hear community voice but just by a matter of default. And as we map out our goals for next year, our goals will have to be reflective of what we hear from our community. And as we think about that 5-year strategic plan, there's a portrait of a graduate that will complete as well. And that portrait of a graduate will embody what it is that our community believes and hopes and aspires for our children to be able to do as they're with us and progress through pre-K through grade 12, but also the opportunities that our children are able to access after they leave us as well. So we definitely look forward to that process, as well as focusing on some of the other target areas for us for improvement as well. Thank you to everyone for your comments this evening, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you, Dr. Morton. Okay, I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Mrs. Winters, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.